Good afternoon. I hope I'm live. Welcome to my craft room. So I thought I'd jump on. I haven't advertised this, done anything like that because I'm a hopeless human being. But I thought I'd jump on and do a tutorial for the feather so you guys can see kind of what I'm doing. I'm not going to do the whole thing, obviously, but I'll do sort of half an hour, something like that, so you can see some bits coming together. If anybody does watch live and you've got any questions, please feel free to ask and I'll do what I can to answer them for you, of course. And we will try and make this as painless as possible for everybody who watches. We can see what happens from there. So for those of you who got hold of this, you will have all of your templates sitting in here. You'll have a bottle of glue. You'll have a glue plate. I think nearly everybody got a glue plate. I did try to explain. The Barry Manilow knocked over my X tool, and so I still haven't dared to even plug it in. I am too scared of the outcome of that. So I think there was about 4 people that missed the glue plate, but I put you an extra little present in for yours. If you do comment, I should be able to see, I think it should come up. I'm using a system called StreamYard. It does show comments on here, I believe. So hopefully that will help. This is live over on YouTube and it's afternoon. Afternoon. I've just said hello to Joe and all my words got muddled, and it should be live on Cut by Hand as well on Facebook. So I just want to, there's Miss Flood. Hello, Tiz Taz. Lots of you will remember Tasmin from Carnation Crafts. She is also now a producer over at Hobby Maker. So we have a royalty in the house. Hello, Miss Tiz Taz. So the feather. I know lots of you got hold of it. You'll all notice, hopefully, that I finally sort of have my finger back. There is an enormous chunk missing of it, but it's here. I've got skin. So we're all very excited about that. Hey, Jill Humphrey, how you doing, gorgeous? So I've been quite remiss in getting these done, but life has been slightly more chaotic than normal, and that is saying something because life is chaotic at the best of times. But it is what it is, right? And I've had a house inspection this morning, so that's all happened. Hey, Kate Jude, how you doing, gorgeous? So your pack of templates here, at the beginning of them, you should have a full color photo of the finished product. And that is obviously a photo of the actual quill that I did in order to design this template. So it's kind of a faux watercolor. We say that loosely. It's paper, so it's never going to emulate watercolor paint, obviously, but it's kind of that fun kind of style that comes with it. And I just want to go through a few bits with you. So we'll go through the outlining process of that midpoint of the feather so you can see it in action. Hey, Lee, how you doing, gorgeous? And then we will start to add in some of the fronds. Like I say, I'm not going to do the whole thing. We'll be here forever. But I'll get some of the blue done for you. I've got some pinks with me. I don't even think I've got the same colors as you guys. I just picked up a load of quilling strips this morning. You can see them, I think, next to me in my cupboard. I've got tons of them, and I just grabbed a few packs this morning. It doesn't matter what color you're doing your feather in. For those of you who got the completist kit, you've got all the colors in the world. The idea is not the colors that you're using, although color theory always important, of course, but it's actually to do with the technique that you're using in order to create your shade lines so that your shading is kind of pretty and also textured almost, so you're not sticking with the same color. Now, theoretically, I could have done the whole thing just in the blue. I could have just done blue strips and it would have still been very pretty and it would still have been a feather, but it wouldn't have the detailing it that we're looking at when we're looking at color theory and we're trying to bring in those bright, vivid tones. So it's just kind of playing with those ideas. I hope you can all hear okay, by the way, because I'm on a different microphone this morning, and I hope you can all see okay as well. It's been a while since I've done a live from my craft room, so we will go with it. Now, the idea behind having the reference photo is that you can either copy it identically if you want, or you can play around and just look at visual tones. The first thing I'll tell you, and a lot of you will already know, glue is sticky. Glue is wet. It has a liquid content to it. It's got water in it. Water warps paper. If you think in terms of rock, paper, scissors, Glue will always win out when it comes to paper. It's always going to win the fight. It's a big bully when it comes to paper. Glue will always ruin any paper fibers that we're putting it on. Good morning, Viv. Don't be saying sorry that you're late. I did not advertise this. If I had half of the skills of Miss Towers of being able to organize things, I would be in a much better place. But I'm a terrible human. I've got no organization skills. I'm not even going to pretend to. It's my fault. It's all of the things. So because you've got water content in your glue, it's going to warp your paper. The first thing we're going to do is just alleviate against that. Now, it's not going to stop the warping. The warping is still going to happen. What I need to establish, though, and bear in mind with quilling, we're using more glue than you normally would because it's every little detail that's coming on. So you've got to allow for the fact that there's going to be a lot of water there. So what we're going to do is make sure that if I'm going to frame this into a frame, I need to have a stopping point where my edges are still flat. The rest of it I'm okay with. I'm going to be using a box frame anyway. My paper's going to rise up. I've got to ensure that my edges remain entirely flat. That's really important. So I'm going to use some washi tape. Now, this might be a little bit too harsh on mine because it's quite a strong washi tape. This is an AC washi tape and they do amazing washi tapes, but it's not meant to hold this down. It was just one I grabbed this morning. Make sure one you're using is low tack. That's the important point. So I'm just going to outline at the bottom here. What this is going to do is going to keep my template nice and straight. It's going to allow for the fact that there's going to be some water content going on here. And it means I'll still be able to frame it at the end, regardless of what happens in the middle. So I know I always go on about glue is sticky. You don't need much. This is why. This is years and years and years of quilling and years of ruining paper and ruining quills. You know, I've got to the end of some pieces that I've been really proud of, but I've ruined the end result because I've allowed water to become like a part focus on here instead of actually vying against it, when all you need to do is just put your edges down. If you've got any questions, now's your time. Hey, Rachel, the little ducks, they were so cute, right? I thought they were really sweet. I didn't want to offend anybody because I know it said you're ducking brilliant and I didn't want to. So I did ask, I think I asked Taz actually, and I was like, do you think this is offensive? And she was like, no, I think they'll be fine. But I just thought they were really, really sweet. So it was just a little something to say thank you. Listen, I'm a very tiny little business over here. So to have anybody buy anything is insane. But also I'm super, super grateful, as are my children, as are my cats, if they had any clue what was going on. Now, I've got this laid down. You're better off with it as near to you as possible. And the reason for that is you're going to be leaning. Now, I always do mine on a rotating mat. I've got a glass mat that I use to rotate, and it's really handy for me. I'm not going to do that when I'm doing the tutorial because I want to be where you are so that I'm not kind of smoking, mirroring things. So I'm just going to do it this way. But it's just so that we can see, you know, the whole thing coming together and try and work out. So what I'll do is do my midpoint here. So this is your outlining, this tiny bit of outlining. I've got to say, in terms of quills, this has got to be one of the easiest ones we've done so far. There's no real technique here, particularly. There's not a lot of outlining to do. It's only that main sort of quill part of the feather. So that's easy done. And then the rest of it is just lines. It's not a lot that you can go wrong with it. Anxiety suffer. Yeah, I hear you, girl. It's not good, is it? I've had a couple of pretty bad weeks. I've come to the other side of it, so I know exactly where you are. So we're going to just stem out some of these. Don't get hung up on my lines, because I've done this before when I've done templates, and I've always avoided doing templates before because I know myself, I get hung up on other people's lines. It's a really bad way to start. My advice is try and get your outlining as near as you possibly can. After that, play, let it be free. My lines underneath it won't really detract so long as you've gone for roughly the same sizes. Obviously, if you do all your lines and they end here, you're going to see all of my work underneath it. But you're trying to cover it up. And you want to really be looking at getting quite a few pieces of paper within each section. That's all. So on this section, for instance, here, you're probably going to look at about getting 6 or 7 pieces of paper into that, not too much. And we're going to just merge colors. We're going to play with color and make that a more kind of vibrant thing. Now, your glue. Glue is sticky. I say this all the time. Get your glue pad next to you. Make sure you've got a little place to put dots of glue to get rid of any bulk at the end before you start. So my glue plate is sitting here. And I tend to use this mainly to put my finger in by accident, apparently, is if I'm trying to get a bead, let me see if I can bring you in. If I'm getting a bead, that's Barry Manilow, sorry guys. If I'm trying to get a bead of glue here, as it comes out, often I will just get rid of that first bead and then start the outlining process. That means that basically I'm not oversaturating. I'm not going too far. Rachel, you're at work, so can you catch this up? Yes, it's going to be on Facebook, but then Facebook apparently now get rid of videos. It's over on my YouTube channel as well, which is Cut by Hand, Paper Cut something. Obviously I should know those things, but it is over there. Look for Cut by Hand, you'll probably find it. I've got two by accident. I don't know how I got the second one. One of them it won't be on, it'll be on the other one. So I hope that helps. Oh god, honestly, I look at all these people on YouTube and they're so professional. Right, this tiny tip I'm drawing. All I'm doing is following my own outline there on there. Keep it going. Steady little stream of glue. That's Miss Phyllis shouting at Barry Manilow. Now I'm going to do both sides, which is probably a little bit adventurous. I don't really need to do both at once. I can do one. Then you're just starting out, just do one, maybe little bit by little bit. You don't need to do the whole thing. It's just about getting to, you know, where you think you're going to be the most comfortable. Some people like to do just a little bit, then add a bit more glue, little bit. The problem with that is you'll start to get breaks in your paper, which isn't always the best thing for what you're looking for, but it is entirely up to you, of course. Condition your paper. So that just means just run it through your fingers so that it's malleable. This is going to make it more pliable. And it means you can manipulate it more because we're not just working in a straight line. It has got some curvature to it. Take your tweezers. It's really important when you're doing quilling that if you can, you're using straight nose tweezers. The state of mine, I've been in clay, look. Straight nose tweezers. And the reason being is as we're turning corners, if I was to use my even worse set of tweezers here, look, honestly, state of me. If I was to use these, they've got a point. And if I try and go around a corner, it's going to be angled to the same angle as that point. And I want it to be straight. So I try not to use pointed scissors when I'm quilling. These are just little tips. Whether they help you or not, I don't know. But certainly it's what I live and breathe by when I'm quilling. Now, I'm just going to start by laying this paper down. And as I go, I'm putting my finger on top of that piece of paper. I'm not pushing, but I am holding it because what I want it to do is have that lovely adhesion point. Now, glue is sticky. The paper below will warp and the paper that you're using to quill with will also warp. Natural part of the process, but it can make it tricky sometimes. Now, before you turn your corner, just go along, just gently persuade it. That's all we're doing. And it's just so that it stands still on its own and I don't need to worry about it. I hope you can all see well enough, by the way. I've got some of your comments here, so I can see some of you there. Now, I want to do a turning point. And when I want to do a turning point, I need to make sure that it's a direct turning point. So the first thing I'll tell you, when you get to this stage and you're at the top, wait. Wait till it's dry. If you've got any moisture, and this is why it always goes wrong when we're on air, because if I'm one hobby maker, I got to work fast. And so I can't get my timings. You need to just sit and hold it. Once that's adhered, then start thinking about your turning point. If you go too fast, everything that you've just done will just come away. And that is so frustrating. But you can see I'm in a cooler room here than I am at the Hobby Maker Studios. So it adheres much quicker, much easier. You'll find the same at home. You're not under really hot lights. Obviously, if you add heat to glue, then it gets kind of tacky and a bit gummy and a bit unpleasant. But we're usually in cooler surroundings in our houses. To turn a corner, now, how can I do this when my ridiculous hands aren't in the way? All I'm doing is pinching that piece of paper so you can see it here. I'm going to take the end and I'm going to pull it around. Now, I always use my little finger for this and I can't anymore, which is unfortunate. I've got no feeling left in it. So I can pull this round and then I can take my tweezers away. I'm going to pinch it with my fingers so I've got a point. Okay, now normally what I would tell you to do is rotate your paper, and this is why I always say using a rotating tool is much easier than your desk. However, I would suggest you mask this out, as I have done. It's going to make your life a bit easier. Hey Janet, how you doing? Lovely. You received your kit. Thank you. I've sent you a private message to your business page. I will be on it at some point. Everybody just bear in mind how useless I am. This is no excuse, but it is fact. Right. Now I've got this. I'm going to pull it. And then I'm going to hold it. And that should adhere the whole of the side. Now you'll notice that I didn't put extra glue on there. If I find that my glue had dried, I could go back in. Glue has got a good sticking point for about 50 seconds. And your best sticking point is about 40 seconds. It's just as you get that, the water starts to evaporate from the PVA. So as it evaporates from the actual compound of the PVA, it's sticky. So we're waiting for that water to evaporate all the time. And that's why glue, it's so important that you don't use too much glue, because the water in it is only to keep it so it's runny. That's the only, the purpose that the water has is to keep it so your glue is runny. Once it's drying, we want that water to evaporate so that we can just use the sticky compound that's in the PVA. And so when we use small amounts, it evaporates quicker. It stops the warping on the page. And I know I go on about it. Have I got any shame for that? No, none at all. Will I always go on about it? Yes. Now I'm just going to do this. I have lost my cutter bees, which is about the most frustrating thing that could have happened this morning. I'm just going to push that round. Can you see? No, absolutely not. Can you see now? So I've just pushed that round. Now I've got two choices. I can either cut off the excess, or I can once again bend it. It's entirely up to me which way I choose to go. If I bend it again, it will be a little bit more secure, but it's entirely up to you. And then using tiny amounts, I'm just going to place a little bit of glue. Now you might not be able to see that, but it's on the piece of paper, and I will show you now. It's just on that little flap of paper there. And I'm just going to turn it round, push it in, grab my tweezers and clasp. Now I'll change to my left hand in a second so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm not too cack-handed. I'm not going to be able to do that with my left. Hold on. Those of you out there that can use your left and your right, I'm so jealous. There. And that's just going to pin these. Hey, Linda Wilson, how you doing? Lovely. That's going to pin these in place. And that's your outlining pretty much done. You've got a tiny bit more down here, but not much to write home about at that stage. I can put more paper in between if I want to make that thicker. If I wanted to give it more of an point, that's absolutely brilliant. Hey, Sharon Tidmus, how you doing? Lovely. You just received your parcel. I'm glad you're all getting them. I know it's been a bit of a major insanity. So there's a bigger piece at the bottom, which is the end of that quill, of course, and that's got several pieces of paper inside it. That's a choice. I like to just put a little bit extra in. This one, I'm not bothered about having a more paper running through it, but this one, because it's that end piece, I want it to be fuller. You've got some tiny little coils that are running down here. Your coils, I'll very quickly do you a coil so you can see a coil. I've got some random papers over here. The life of a quiller. So if I take this, and let me get a piece of white. Always when I'm doing colour, I try to bring in a white. Let me just pull those apart. I try and bring in a white and a colour. You don't have to. It's entirely a preference. I think on the original one, I might have just done a full colour. If you start to bring in the two together, you get a much richer volume of colour, and that's really important. So white strip here, and I've put some adhesive on it, and then I've got the blue strip above. I'm going to get them nose to nose, and then I'm going to pinch the two together so they stick, and then I've got both, okay, and they're attached. From that point, I can take this, take my needle, and I can pull it round, and I can whizzy whiz round. Now, some of you may find it easier. By the way, when you've done that, always uncoil it and then recoil it. I know that seems counterproductive, but you'll get a much nicer coil. And you get these really beautiful pieces. Now, for those of you who would prefer to use your slotted tool, if I've got one with me, you can still do it. I've told you before, I'll tell you again, I'm not a massive fan of slotted tools. I know they're an imperative part of quilling. I know everybody loves a slotted tool who quills. It's personal preference. I'm not such a fan. I always provide one because lots of people use them, and there are instances when you need to use a slotted tool. So I do always provide one. However, is it my go-to? No. If you're using your slotted tool, just pop that in and you're going to rotate. It's much quicker with a slotted tool. There's no getting around that. Once I've done that, I'm going to take it and I'm going to roll it just a little bit between my thumb and forefinger, just to get some preservation. And there's your coil, very pretty and very well done. The only reason I don't like them so much is that very midpoint on the coil, it's got now a bend in it, a bend, which, does it matter? I don't know. To me, I don't love it. So that's just me. So I just wanted to show you coils. That will go in for the love heart that we did in the last collection. They're all done the same. And it will also take you to your watercolor outbursts here and your little coils there. And then to start going in with some color, I'll just look at your blues for the time being, and then we'll see how time goes. Joe Venison, who is live with us. First of all, can we just say Storage of Crafts behind me has been my biggest lifesaver. And this is not just because she's on here, but the amount of stuff I fit in my Storage of Craft is unbelievable. Second of all, Miss Joe Venison, if you don't send me your address, then I'm going to torment you. So please do send me your address. Right, so I've got my dark blue here, and I've just dipped my white in my coffee, so that's not going to do me any good for now. Very hard living in this brain. If anybody would like to have a go for an afternoon, you're more than welcome. Right, Miss Taz will tell you that it's very hard living in my brain. If she's still here, she's probably logged off because I think she hears enough of my drivel. Right, so in order to measure, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to get into the point where that feather is. Now, thumb and forefinger, I'm going to pinch it where those lines kind of end. And now I've got a mark on my quilling paper. Can you see that just there? And that's where I'm going to cut it. And that is just going to be very simple. Now I'm going to use my tweezers. Now, this can be probably the most frustrating part of the process. But listen, once you've done it, what, 2-3 times, you're done. Once you've done it, Miss Tiz Taz, it is Miss Tiz Taz. She is, where's a PA when you need one? Miss Tiz Taz is my PA. What she doesn't tell people is that she's also my carer, but she's just like an unpaid carer who just has the torment of sorting me out most of the time. Bless her. Now, glasses on. Right. How close can I get this to you guys without destroying your vision? You've got a line point here. You need a bead. Get rid of it. Onto your little sticking mat. Get a new one. And very, very gently, I'm going to go along. Let me get rid of that bubble. There we go. Bead. Get rid. Control your beads. And I'm just dotting tiny amounts. Glue is sticky. Running right along. Now, this is an annoying process. However, I'll show you an alternative. Now, where I've measured that, I'm not going to worry about my lines. Worry about my lines, I'll be here for a month. So I'm just going to stick that down. Hold it, let go. For those of you that think you're going to struggle to do that tip point, there is an alternative to it. All I'll say is go steady with it. And this is the one I use when I'm doing coils and I'm sticking coils, and it is an alternative. So take a glue mat. You can use a silicone mat if you don't have the glue mat. And all you're going to do is take that off because it's annoying. And then I'm going to do that. Now, you can spread that out. Is it a good idea? Probably, yeah. What I don't want is a puddle of glue. Let me show you. Sometimes you're as well to learn what not to do as you are to learn what to do, I think. If I take this and I now dip it straight in, I've got a problem. And it's that. So there's so much glue there that first of all, you're going to see it when it dries. It'll look awful. You'll just be able to see this glaring glaze of glue that you don't want. So I would never go to those extremes. What I would try and do more effectively is, if I'm using a larger piece because it's for the feather, is just very gently dip it, but run it through as I'm going and try not to fit it down to the end. Just like so. So I've got more of a bead. Then I'm going to dot it on my glue pad to get rid of excess. And if there's some sitting up at the side, I'm just going to use my fingers just to take that away. It's going to just give you a bit more control. It's going to look a little neater. Now, I didn't measure this one. I just did it by sight. It's going to be too long. So let me just snip it a bit away. You can do all of this with your hands if you find the tweezers annoying. It's just the process that you find that runs the smoothest for you. And you can go through. Now, if you don't have enough glue on, you can add it at a later stage. You don't need to worry too much. The alternative way of doing it, the third way of doing it, is the same way as outlining. And that's where I would go along with my glue on the inside. And that works really well, except for when it's busy. Because once I've got a lot of strips on here, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle to get the tip inside. I'm going to also risk bending all of my pieces, which I don't want to do. I want to keep them nice and neat and uniform. So it's about finding that sort of piece way. Now, I'm obviously not able to lean over because I'm going to get right in your way, but I can see on the camera that this one is not as straight as I would like it to be. And there is a point here. So I can go in with my tweezers now that it's perfectly dry, and I can run my tweezers and just kind of smooth it out a little bit. You always have an option to come back in afterwards and just assist. This one isn't as sticky as I would like, and I do need it to be. So you can just go in and you can add a tiny dab of glue rather than outlining, just a tiny little dab just to hold it. We're not pressing hard. If you press too hard on your papers, you're going to get more warping. I don't know what the science is behind that. You would have to find somebody who knows more of the things than I know. So I've got two of those darker colors. Now I want to start adding in some shading, some lighter shades. I don't want it all to be dark. However, I do want the outline of that piece to be darker. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in one more piece of the dark blue, both, in the midpoints here, close up to the first. Now, condition your papers. That's always going to help. I'm going to go very close. So I'm measuring out, pinching, and then snipping. Now I'm going to take this. I'm going to do it this way. It's the way I prefer to do it, but I will need my glasses to see. So I'm just going to bead. Can you see, if I get this as close as I can, you can see the bead, and I'm just tapping the edge of that paper. Now, if your bead is drying up, just a tiny little squeeze. You don't want much. And you don't have to have it all the way. You can leave gaps in between, not too big. And so I've got these beading points, okay? That's going to give me less of a glaze on my finished piece. It's going to make it thick, but without that glaze point that I'm trying to avoid. And I'm going to go in quite close. And this is where you just start manipulating your paper, really, because that glue is going to hold it once you've got it in place. So I'm going to make sure there's a tiny gap, not too big. I don't want a load of white space in between because it will not look great. And then hold. Just hold. I'm very aware that Hobby Maker will be going live in about 15 minutes, so I don't want to hold you all up. I'm going to place that through. So you can start to see the fullness coming. This is depth of color. This is why my strips are always 1 centimeter long and why I will not use anything lower unless I'm making jewelry or something else. So I'm always trying to get those lines close together, that depth of color coming through, because it makes such a difference to the end product. Now I'm going to place another one very close to the one on top. And again, we're just talking depth of color. And then we'll start some shading. So I'll get this front done so you can all see it. So we're going in, get that bead, and you're allowed to breathe. Always hold my breath when I do that. I don't know why. And then I'm going to come in. And I'm just going to stick. So go through with your tweezers, get that separation, tiny amount of separation. Look in a couple of millimeters, a millimeter of separation between the strips. And that's going to give you this really beautiful full coloring. And then we can play with those distances, because as you go through, you might find that there's some way you would like it to be a bit more naked and have less sort of a closeness to it. And it's up to you to play with it. And while that glue's still wet, you can just manipulate. Remember, you're always manipulating that paper. It's really important to be able to kind of go into that and really sort of play with color. Now I'm going to come in with some lighter tones here. I'll come in with this light blue, see as it's sitting next to me. And I'm also going to add in a couple of whites, but I won't go in a lot with whites. So I want to fill in some colorway, and I'm not going to just go whites. So the logical sense, I think, if we were talking in terms of shading, would be to do your dark blues, then a couple of strips of lighter blue, and then in the middle white. That's not what we're aiming for here. I do the 2 ones darker at the end so that you can see that we are outlining. So you've got that depth of color. Then we start playing with color. So I might add in a light blue and then a dark blue and maybe a white and then a dark blue. It doesn't have to be uniform. What it has to be is mixed. And that mixing will give you those shading points, which are really important for your color theory. And it's about how we do that. So in terms of when I've done the green and yellow here, because I don't have a light green, I do there, but because I don't have a light green in here, you can actually start to sort of, for want of a better way of phrasing it, jacks the rules. So it doesn't matter. You're not following color theory in the sense of shading. So that's some really great ways of learning how to produce color value. Green and yellow obviously go very well together anyway. So you get that sort of extra play time. It's really important that you don't, if you just copy mine, when you're first doing it 100%, it's the easiest way, of course. But then play, find your colorways, use this as a really great sort of jumping off point for quilling. Now I'm just going to come through, we're going to tap. I can't actually see what I'm doing here. Hold on. Bead. And keep going. So I think you can all see why fine nibs are so important on your glue. It makes all the difference. Coming in with some light blue now. Now, the logical thing would be to go below the next with a light blue, below this one with a white blue. I don't want to do that. It might be that the light blue comes in at that point, but it might not be. And so what I'm trying to say is don't always try and do a pattern with your colors. If you're always going to do a pattern with your colors, you're going to get this kind of uniformity. It'll be pretty, but nature's not structured. And so if you try and structure nature, your picture will tell you that you're trying to structure nature. The idea is go off kilter, do your own thing with your color, add in some differences. You can add in some pink in here. It doesn't have to be the blue and whites. It's just I've done it for the faux watercolor. But if you think of tone and shade, it's never one thing. My finger is a variant of different shades. You can see the dark pinks here, the lighter tones. You can see where the light's shining on it across. So we've got all of those shading points that we're looking at. So it's never it's never uniform. And I think one of the places we often go wrong is trying to make things uniform, because our heads are logical that way. Well, most people, maybe not mine. So I'm going to come in with another blue. I'll do another light blue. Something very exciting is happening this afternoon, guys. I am going, hold on. I'm going to pick up my next cut by hand thing, which is not quilling, which is weird. I've got something else coming. And I'm very excited. I've been designing away like a busy, busy bee. And I'm going to go and pick it up. Right, I'm just going to put this in here. So now I'm starting to bring in those tonal values. So we've got the dark blue and the light blue. I don't just want to stop there. Miss Taz, no way. I know, right? Miss Taz knows what it is. Miss Taz saw, I think, when I was in the process of designing. And they're there. It's very exciting. So I'm just going to use my tweezers to manipulate. You've got to remember, as your glue dries, your paper moves. So you might have to just come in, tweak, manipulate. It's about being patient. And that's one of the most valuable things you can give yourself whenever you're crafting, whenever you're doing any type of craft, is can you be patient with yourself? You want to rush a project. Quilling's not the project for you. You don't want to be sitting here going, oh, well, I could probably get this done in an hour. You're not going to get it done in an hour. It might take you 2 days. It might take you a day. If I was sitting and doing something like this, having all the experience that I do have with quilling, I'd still be looking at taking around about 5 hours, something like that. Sometimes longer. Some of the quills I've done have taken 3 days. It just depends. Never go into a project wondering when you're going to finish or how long it's going to take you. Always go into it knowing this is going to be your next best breathing space. If it takes a week, it takes a week. It's taken me years to learn that. I hope it doesn't involve sharp things. Linda, I don't think anybody would let me near sharp things. But I do have some skin back on my finger, which is incredibly exciting because they did say it could potentially take a year to get skin back. And again, Miss Taz was the poor soul that had to take me to hospital when all of this was done. She got a phone call from me, and can we just say, drove the best part of 45 minutes to come and get me, to take me to the hospital, because I obviously couldn't do anything. And she saw the state that it was in. So there is a bit of the finger missing. We can live with that. Viv, I've absolutely loved my quilling journey. It's so relaxing. Quilling, I think quilling, I mean, I'm biased. I think quilling is one of the nicest crafts out there, and I think it's really underrated. I'm going to pop a white in here now. So this is going between all of those complex colours that we've put in, which are the dark blues, the light blues, mixed in different ways. And I'm going to bring in a white, just a tone, and cool everything down. We just want to cool those colours a little bit. Not too much. I don't want a separation. What I don't want is a block of white in the middle, because that would look odd. So we need to kind of, I want to tell you there's a definitive way, but the whole point of me telling you this is that there's not a definitive way. And if we're just going to kind of try and do the right thing all the time, and you're going to worry about it, you're not going to get a flow, and you want the flow line. So if I place this in, just like so, keep it in your tweezers, use your hand. So I just manipulate with my finger all the time. Hence the fact that I've not been quilling so much. And I'm just going to pinch that with my tweezers and push that through. You won't get much of the white because it's surrounded by blue, and the colour hue from the two blues are bouncing off the white. So the white actually doesn't really appear to be blue, to be white. It appears to be blue. It appears to be an off of the blue, if that makes sense. And that's where we're going for. That's where you get your faux watercolor. It's about bouncing color. Now I'm happy with that as a little frond on my feather, and I can start then to build and go into the next frond, which is a thin one here, a few pieces. So when you're looking at it, I'm in my craft room turning out, so I have space for your new stuff. Can't wait to see what's next. I'm really excited about what's next. So this here, this here frondy bit here. If you look at this bit and you go, well, that was quite a sizable chunk. The next bit is actually much thinner. So this is your sizable chunk, and this is the much thinner piece. So in terms of time, that's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was only for 8 strips of paper, right? So the next one's probably only going to be 6. So it looks complex, right? Because you're looking at it and you're going, that's a ton of strip. It's not a ton of strips, because what we do have in between is white space, and that's where the gaps are. There's not masses of it, but there's enough to boost your color. Your boosting color value is really important, and those white spaces between, which when you're looking at it directly head on, they will be really valuable. But if you leave too much of a white space, that's a problem. It'll look naked. So you've got to get them relatively close. Don't get too hung up on it, but at the same time, you'll find that rhythm, couple of millimeters between each one. Keep your paper held down. It's really important that you don't let glue win out. Glue is not your best friend. It may pretend to be, but it's not. It's your worst enemy, maybe not your worst enemy. And it's quite useful sometimes, but glue is sticky, and it's going to have a water value that's going to make this wobble, and you don't want to succumb to that. So while you've got it pinned down, one thing I used to do a lot of years ago, again, I don't really advise it. The reason I don't use it anymore is because I don't think it's got the value that I would like it to have. But I used to use spray adhesive and, you know, the temporary stuff, and I used to put it underneath and it would hold it firmly down. It is a way to do it. Is it the best way? No, because you get all kinds of fluff on it. If you want to really ensure that it's not lifting anywhere and that you've got this really solid base, there is a way around that. But you're going to have to work backwards. So my advice, just have a go at making it first. Just get one out, make sure you know what you're doing. And then when you come to do the next one, go on to, I don't even know the best store for it, really. I'll be totally honest with you. You can get them on Amazon, and if you go to the frame company and put in deep box frame, and you're looking at one with a mount, you want one that's got a mount for it. If you get one of those, they actually fit your full quill in with the 1 centimeter strips, and they're really hard to find, but it's called the Frame Company and they're on Amazon and they do them, and it's a really deep one. It's got a double mount to it. My advice, if you're going to frame it, you want to get this back, use some grey board, but use one that's really thin. I've got some somewhere, but I don't know where it is. In fact, you should have some in this. I think it did it come with some grey board at the back? I can't remember. Yeah. So you should have a piece of grey board, okay? And it's a nice thin grey board. It's not too heavy. It's got leeway and give to it, but not enough that it's going to start bending too much. My advice, when you go to do your genuine, you know, your real piece, the one that you're going to maybe frame or gift to somebody, spray paint that, then pop your template on top of it, and then use masking tape to put it on the bottom. You probably won't get any bend that way. You'll probably, grey board will win glue. Rock, paper, scissors, I think grey board and glue, I think grey board would win. So that's my advice to you, is just to make sure you've got it mounted to something that's heavy before you start. Stop any bending, stop any giving with that moisture, and then you can frame it afterwards and you'll be able to remove your masking tape. Now, the other thing that's really important, I'll let you all go in a second, but the other thing that's really important when you're quilling, please keep washing your hands. Even if you don't think they're dirty, please keep washing your hands, because we've got natural oil buildup in our hands, and that oil is constantly touching your paper, and you might not notice it until you've finished, but you'll end up with like oily fingerprints on your piece and they don't look great. So try and keep your hands away from your picture as much as possible. This is why I use a rotating tool. Try and keep your hands away as much as possible. Try and use your tweezers as much as possible. It's really important that we're putting those pieces down with the tweezers, not with our fingers, because the more you're touching it, the harder it's going to be at the end. You can't really get rid of those marks very well. So it's just about working out. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera and I can't move the lighting, but I can see a tiny, tiny little amount of glaze here. Well, I've got some glue. Now that's going to happen. So don't get hung up on it. You can buy erasers that take glue away. Do I rate them hugely? Not massively. I've used them for years. The problem is that those erasers, they're like a sand eraser and it's designed to remove adhesive. It also removes the top layer of fibers on your paper. So if you think of one fiber of paper as being a hair and you're getting a split hair, you know, the split, I've got many of them, the split hairs that you have in your hair, that's the same. So if I'm using that eraser, what I'm doing is where I've got that one piece of fiber, I'm splitting it. And so you get this really raggy look on your papers. So do I think it's the best thing for it? No. I think a bit of a glaze, a bit of a look of a glaze, much more favorable than torn fibers. That's personal opinion. And it's just where I would go with it. I don't hate them, but I don't rate them for when we're doing artwork that's going to be framed. Remember, we're not just doing your general craft here. You're producing artwork. So that's not to discraft at all, but you know what I'm saying. It's a difference. If you're going to box frame this, you want it to have the best chance it's got at looking the best that it can. And so that's where I would say with it. As far as framing is concerned, you're probably going to look for an A3 frame to fit an A4 picture. So it'll have an A4 aperture in the mount. And so your picture frame will be about an A3 frame, wooden frame, and you'll look for an A4 aperture. They're not all made equal. You do want a deep box frame. They're about 20 quid, I think, the ones I use from the frame company. They're not hugely expensive. And they do them in black, white, natural. And they might have a vanilla as well. I can't remember. But definitely the way to go forward for your box frames. You can't use a normal frame because it's obviously deeper than that. So that's that. What else did I need to tell you? I can't remember the things. But I was going to very quickly show you something, and I don't know what I did with it last night. Let me see if I've still got it in here. No, I haven't. So last night, I'll find it and show you it at some point. I did an experiment last night on the scan and cut, which has nothing to do with quilling. But I did an experiment on the scan and cut, and I engraved metal. I engraved a feather on a metal plaque on my scan and cut last night. And I think that's pretty amazing. I love the fact that after, I don't know, 8 years of using it, I'm still finding these amazing things that I can do with it. So I will share that with you as well at some point, because I don't think it's something we'll have anytime soon on Hobby Maker, but I'm trying, and I'm trying to get hold of it for you. So hopefully we can get some more crafting done with that. I am back with you on Hobby Maker sometime this month. Do I know when? No. I've got a feeling I'm on the 25th, the 27th, and the 29th. I seem to think there was a rhythm in my head. I'm on Jewelry Maker on Friday, and then I've got AC on Monday, and then by hand. I don't know the things. Anyway, cut by hand is not going to be quilling. I've got something brand new for you that I've been designing, that I've had in my head for the longest time, and that I wanted to share with you guys. I've wanted this for ages, never obviously seen anything that came close to it. So I finally designed it. It's taken me a while because it's expensive to have it produced. And so I couldn't buy a lot of quantity of it, unfortunately. So there's not huge amounts when we go to air with it, but there's a few. And so I hope you all love it as much as I do. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit daft, but also great and very useful. Miss Taz will tell you the same thing, I think. And now Hobby Maker is on, and I've gone for 5 minutes over, so I apologise to whoever's on there, and I will let you all go. Listen, it was so good of you to join me. I'm so grateful for you buying this. you've got no clue how much it means just in terms of me feeding my kids. So a huge thank you. I'm obviously a tiny supplier. It really does mean the world. So thank you very much. And I hope the doc at least put a smile on all of your faces. I will speak to you really soon. I'll see you on Hobby Maker. Take care. I've got to work out how to end this now, and I don't know how to do things. But it was lovely to see you all. See you soon. Bye.